In the summer of 1997, the first whisper of a nightmare slithered through the humid nights of a Midwestern city. The body of a young man, barefoot, with a pale face locked in an expression of tranquil surprise, was discovered in a shallow canal behind a rundown bar. No signs of struggle, no evidence of poisoning, just a solitary, mocking chalk drawing of a smiley face left on the nearby embankment. It was as if the scene were staged to taunt, to whisper secrets in the quiet dark. The first clue. Detective Elena Marrow had always prided herself on rationality. In the wake of that first case, however, an unsettling chill crept into her bones. At the scene, the damp air mingled with the metallic tang of decay, and the distant hum of neon signs flickering in abandoned establishments hinted at unseen horrors. A half-heard rumor among locals, the legend of a collective of killers or perhaps something even older, echoed in the dark corners of her mind. A secret society, they said, that left behind their twisted signature as both lure and warning. Within months, similar drownings began haunting quiet rivers, lakes, and even secluded canals across the city. Young men, last seen enjoying the night at bars and raucous parties, now lay lifeless, cradled by cold water. In each case, the eerie smiley face, drawn in stark white chalk, appeared as if by an unseen hand. Each symbol was a silent, derisive laugh in the face of law and order. 2. Urban decay and nightmares. Elena's investigation plunged her into a modern urban decay, where once thriving neighborhoods now whispered of neglect. She roamed the deserted highways, the dimly lit alleyways slick with rain and secrets. Every step resonated with an echo, the sound bouncing off graffiti-smeared walls and abandoned storefronts. Neon lights sputtered in the darkness, casting ghostly shadows that danced like specters, blurring the line between memory and malice. At a derelict bar on the fringes of downtown, an isolated witness, a jittery bartender with haunted eyes, recalled a conversation about a smiling ghost who visited the city's misfits. Cryptic messages, scrawled on damp walls and alleyways, hinted at a fate sealed by an otherworldly presence. Elena's rational mind wrestled with the accounts of those who claimed to have seen figures vanishing into the night, whispers of promises and curses trailing behind. 3. The descent into paranoia. As years passed into the new millennium, the drownings continued, each case meticulously recorded but never conclusively solved. Elena's days and nights merged into a relentless pursuit of the unknown. Late one autumn evening, while navigating a mist-shrouded waterfront, she noticed it again. A smiley face bright against the dark backdrop of a crumbling pier. Its innocent grin belied a sinister secret. The symbol seemed to pulsate in the fog, a heartbeat in the silence. In the weeks that followed, Elena found herself haunted by dreams of spectral figures and the persistent echo of laughter that she could neither outrun nor ignore. The smiley face began to appear in unexpected places. On the mirror in a deserted motel room, etched into the condensation on a bathroom window, even in the grainy footage of a surveillance camera. Each manifestation drove her deeper into paranoia, her thoughts darkening until every shadow looked like a lurking threat. 4. Between the rational and the supernatural. A breakthrough, or perhaps a descent into madness, came one stormy night in 2010, when Elena uncovered a cryptic diary hidden in the archives of an old police station. The entries, penned in a trembling hand, detailed encounters with a group of individuals who claimed to commune with forces beyond mortal understanding. They believed that the smiley face was not merely a calling card of a remorseless killer but the sigil of a spectral presence, an ancient, malevolent force that manipulated events from the shadows, weaving fate and terror into the fabric of the city. As Elena read on, the lines between rational investigation and supernatural dread blurred. The diary spoke of rituals performed in secret, sacrifices made to appease a cosmic trickster whose grin was as eternal as the night. Each victim's death, it claimed, was not a random act but part of a grand, twisted cycle, a sacrament to an entity that fed on despair and fear. The confrontation. In the spring of 2024, the cycle reached a fever pitch. Elena, now weathered by years of relentless pursuit and personal torment, received a tip about a gathering on the outskirts of an abandoned industrial park. Following a trail of cryptic messages and clandestine meetings, she ventured into the cold, mist-laden night. The distant drip of water and the hollow echo of her footsteps along the cracked pavement were her only companions. There, in a forgotten warehouse, she finally encountered them, a circle of figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes gleaming with a fanatical light. At their center, a chalkboard scrawled with multiple smiley faces, each one pulsating with a supernatural aura. The leader, his voice both seductive and terrifying, spoke of destiny and inevitability. "You have come, Detective Marrow," he intoned, his smile stretching unnaturally wide. "The cycle must continue." In that moment time fractured. The warehouse seemed to pulse with a life of its own, and the chill in the air deepened into a malevolent cold. Elena's heart hammered as she realized the true horror. Whether these figures were human or something far more insidious, the smiley face was a harbinger, a sign that terror was always one step ahead, orchestrating the dance of death across decades. 6. The lingering dread. The confrontation blurred the boundaries of reason and nightmare. In the ensuing struggle, as reality warped and the spectral presence seeped into her consciousness, Elena's resolve began to crumble. Was she battling a cold-blooded killer or the embodiment of an ancient evil? Even as she fought for her life, the echo of that chilling grin followed her, a promise that the cycle was unbreakable. Now, as the years stretch from that fateful summer of 1997 to the present day, the city remains shrouded in mystery and dread. The smiley face continues to appear, an emblem of urban decay and the unending cycle of horror. In a quiet canal at the edge of town, a new victim is found, eyes wide in an eternal stare, with that same spectral grin drawn in chalk. The neon lights flicker, the night deepens, and somewhere in the mist, a low, mocking laugh lingers, promising that the terror is far from over. In the silence that follows, one question remains, a question that haunts every dim alley and deserted waterfront. Is the smiley face merely a signature of human depravity, or does it mark the eternal smile of an ancient force, forever waiting in the shadows for its next victim? That was chilling, wasn't it? Now let's dive into our next terrifying tale. In the summer of 1912, the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, lay cloaked in the heavy silence of midsummer heat and hidden secrets. At the heart of this small community stood the imposing Moore family home, a grand, weathered mansion that had once echoed with laughter, love, and the innocent chatter of children. But on one fateful night, that laughter was forever silenced by unspeakable horror. On a humid August evening, a bitter wind swept through the streets, rustling the peeling paint and rattling the old windows of the Moore residence. Inside, Josiah and Sarah Moore prepared for an ordinary night of hospitality. Their 4 children, bright-eyed and hopeful, played quietly in the dimly lit parlor, while 2 young houseguests, visiting from out of town, marveled at the home's old-world charm. No one suspected that beneath the veneer of domestic routine, something malevolent was stirring. As midnight approached, the air turned unnaturally still. The once warm glow of the oil lamps seemed to flicker in anxious anticipation, casting long, trembling shadows along the ornate wallpaper and faded portraits of ancestors who once watched over the family. Then, as if orchestrated by some unseen hand, the door creaked open. A figure, cloaked in darkness and silent malice, slipped into the house. In a brutal, unholy moment, the intruder unleashed a fury of cold steel. The sound of the axe splitting the quiet night was horrifyingly precise, its echo a ghastly punctuation in the serene darkness. One by one, the family was cut down, their lives extinguished with shocking speed and brutal savagery. The killer's presence was fleeting, a ghostly silhouette, leaving behind nothing but terror and an axe abandoned on the cold, scarred floor. When the deed was done, the murderer carefully placed plain, white sheets over the lifeless faces of the victims, as if to mock both their memory and the sanctity of what should have been a peaceful home. The eerie tableau was left to be discovered the following morning, a grim testament to a horror that defied explanation. In the weeks that followed the unspeakable night, the Moore house was shunned. Rumors spread like wildfire through Villisca, whispers of a vengeful spirit, a family doomed to wander the halls of their once beloved home. Neighbors claimed to hear soft sobbing late at night, and the faint sound of childish laughter echoed in the empty rooms. Some swore they saw the glimmer of eyes in the dark, as if the victims themselves were watching, trapped between worlds. A local undertaker, whose hands had sealed many a coffin, confided in hushed tones about the unexplainable chill that haunted the manor. "It's as if their sorrow has seeped into the very wood," he murmured, his voice quivering with both fear and fascination. "The house is alive with their grief and perhaps their thirst for justice." Years later, an intrepid historian named Evelyn Carlyle became obsessed with the unsolved tragedy. Drawn by the aura of despair and mystery that clung to the abandoned Moore estate, she resolved to uncover the secrets of that grim night. Under a sallow autumn moon, Evelyn crossed the threshold of the decaying mansion. The air was thick with dust and despair, and every creak of the floorboard seemed to whisper the names of those who had perished. Inside, she discovered remnants of a once happy life, a child's toy tucked beneath a broken chair, a faded photograph of the smiling Moore family, and most disturbingly an old ledger filled with frantic, indecipherable notes. The pages hinted at secret gatherings and dark obsessions, suggesting that the family might have been entangled in matters far beyond ordinary mortal concerns. It was as if a sinister force had been slowly eroding their very souls long before the final violent act. Evelyn's nights became a blurred tapestry of fevered dreams and spectral visions. She often awoke to find the familiar white sheets gently draped over objects, or even across her own bed, as if the spirits of Josiah, Sarah, and their children were trying to communicate their sorrowful plea for retribution. In one chilling vision, she saw a figure standing in the doorway of the parlor, a pale, sorrowful apparition with eyes full of despair, beckoning her deeper into the heart of the mystery. As Evelyn delved further into the lore of the Moore house, unsettling occurrences escalated. Neighbors reported that on stormy nights, a faint rhythmic tapping, like the slow swing of an axe, could be heard echoing from within the walls. Some claimed that the ghostly silhouettes of the Moore family were seen roaming the property, their forms intermittently illuminated by flashes of lightning, their expressions a mix of anguish and a grim, spectral determination. At times, the oppressive aura of the house seemed to shift as if it were alive, a living monument to sorrow and unspeakable injustice. It was rumored that the axe, long since rusted and abandoned, had never truly left the premises. Its cursed presence was felt in every shadowed corner, every creaking floorboard, as though it waited patiently for the moment to relive its horrific history. The mystery of the Villisca Axe Murders remains an enduring enigma, a scar upon the town's history. The Moore home, now a crumbling relic of a bygone era, stands as a grim monument to the unknown killer and the spectral echoes of a family lost to madness and malice. Some nights, when the wind is right and the moon is a pale ghost in the sky, one might catch a glimpse of a white sheet billowing in an upstairs window or hear the low, mournful creak of an unseen presence wandering the halls. Evelyn's research culminated in a chilling realization. The spirits of the Moore family might still linger in the house, bound by the violent injustice of their untimely deaths, yearning for a justice that time had long since forgotten. As she penned her final account, she could not shake the sensation that she was being watched, that every creak and every shadow in the ancient mansion was a silent witness to the unending sorrow and unresolved mystery. In the end, the Villisca Axe Murders persist as a dark, lingering question, one that invites both terror and pity. The unrelenting presence of the past haunts the present, leaving an indelible mark on all who dare to listen to the whispers in the dark. And in the silent, dust-covered corners of the Moore house, one might still hear the quiet rustle of white sheets and the mournful sigh of a family that will forever seek justice from the shadows. If you thought that was scary, wait until you hear this next story. The night was heavy with promise and dread in Columbus, Ohio, as the neon lights of the bustling downtown district flickered like restless spirits. Brian Shaffer, a 27-year-old medical student with eyes full of determination and hope, stepped into the crowded bar, a local haunt known for its pulsating beats, vibrant chatter, and the undercurrent of secrets that seemed to seep from its very walls. It was here, amid the clamor of laughter and clinking glasses, that his life would inexplicably vanish. The bar, a kaleidoscope of modern design and worn-out charm, was alive with energy. The hum of conversations and the rhythmic pulse of electronic music mingled with the scent of spilled beer and cigarette smoke. Brian moved with an easy confidence, his smile genuine as he exchanged greetings with friends and strangers alike. Security cameras, mounted unobtrusively in the high corners of the ceiling, captured every moment in silent vigilance. At precisely 11:42 p.m., Brian was recorded on one of the cameras entering through the main door. His presence lit up the frame, a flash of light in a sea of dim figures. Friends remember his laughter echoing in the vibrant air, his eyes scanning the room as if searching for something beyond the transient revelry. Yet, as the night wore on, a perplexing detail began to surface. Despite the bar's multiple exits and the constant flow of patrons, there was no trace of him leaving. The security footage became the epicenter of mounting confusion. Night after night, investigators pored over every second of grainy film. Brian's figure appeared at the entrance, mingled with a throng of partygoers, but then, nothing. No footage captured his exit, no sign of him in the bustling corridors beyond the main door. The video looped in endless uncertainty, a ghostly record of a disappearance that defied explanation. Rumors began to circulate among the bar's staff and regulars. Some claimed that the dimly lit backrooms, rarely frequented by the crowd, seemed to breathe a strange energy, a whisper of something otherworldly. Others spoke of a peculiar pattern. Every so often, a shadow would detach itself from the throng, lingering near the exits before dissolving into nothingness. It was as if the bar itself had become a portal, an enigmatic threshold where reality blurred with the unexplainable. Outside the bar, the search for Brian intensified. His family and friends, gripped by a growing paranoia, clung to hope while being tormented by an ever-deepening dread. His mother's eyes were red-rimmed from sleepless nights spent poring over every detail of the case, each shadow in her peripheral vision a reminder of her missing son. Friends recounted their last moments with him in desperate detail, each account laced with uncertainty and regret. Was he simply a victim of a cold-hearted crime, or had he been lured into a darker, more sinister realm? Theories abounded in hushed tones. A hidden passage. Some whispered that the bar, built atop the foundations of an old industrial warehouse, hid secret passageways beneath its veneer. Could Brian have accidentally, or intentionally, discovered one, slipping into a forgotten world that existed parallel to our own? A supernatural lure. Others leaned towards the paranormal, speculating that the bar was cursed by a malevolent presence. The persistent, inexplicable shadow glimpsed on the security footage, coupled with strange energy readings in the building's basement, hinted at something far more sinister than mere human malice. A modern urban legend. Then there were those who suggested that Brian's disappearance was a meticulously orchestrated act, part of a twisted performance art piece or a secret experiment in urban abduction, designed to test the boundaries of collective fear. 4. Descent into uncertainty. As weeks bled into months, the case grew colder, the mystery deepened, and the city's underbelly pulsed with rumors of other vanishings, each echoing Brian's fate. The once familiar hum of the Columbus nightlife now carried a disquieting edge, a reminder that in every shadow something might be waiting. Investigators revisited the bar, their flashlights cutting through the stale air of empty corridors. The energy in the building felt charged, almost sentient, as if it harbored secrets that refused to die. In one particularly eerie moment, a lone detective paused before a back exit. The silence was absolute, save for the distant, irregular hum of machinery. It was then he noticed it, a faint smear on the wall like a dark fingerprint, leading to a door that creaked open with the slightest provocation. Yet, when he stepped through, there was nothing but a dead-end corridor bathed in cold, fluorescent light. Brian Shaffer's disappearance remains an enigma, a chilling mystery that lingers like a specter over Columbus. The bustling bar, once a beacon of nightlife, is now viewed with wary eyes, a place where reality seems to unravel at the seams, where security footage hints at the impossible, and where the boundaries between the known and the unknown dissolve into terror. Family and friends continue their search, haunted by the memory of his smile, the warmth of his laughter, and the inexplicable final moments captured on film. Every shadow cast by the neon glow, every sudden hush that falls over the crowded room, raises the possibility that Brian is not merely lost, but that he has stepped into a realm governed by something far more sinister than human cruelty. In the relentless pursuit of answers, one unsettling question remains: what truly happened to Brian Shaffer that night? And as the city sleeps under a cloak of uneasy calm, do the shadows of Columbus conceal not only his fate but a door to a darker, hidden world where reality is rewritten and the missing may never be found again? Brace yourself, because the next story is even more disturbing. The night was ink black, the vast Atlantic Ocean a swirling mass of deep blues and grays when the lookout on the day Grazia spotted it. A phantom adrift, its silhouette haunting against the starlit sky. The Mary Celeste, as it would later be called, floated without a sound or stir, an eerie relic in the endless sea. There was nothing outwardly amiss. The sails were furled in perfect repose, the rigging untouched by time, and every cabin glowed with the quiet dignity of a ship long dead. Yet, as the day Grazia's crew approached, a shudder ran through them. This was no ordinary abandonment. When the mariners finally came alongside, they found the Mary Celeste startlingly intact. Supplies lay neatly arranged in every hold. Foodstuffs, tools, and personal effects remained exactly as they had been. In the captain's quarters, the log lay open on a mahogany desk, its pages still wet with the ink of recent entries. The entries spoke of routine voyages, of the calm and relentless rhythm of the sea, and ended abruptly, as though the author had been interrupted mid-sentence. The mystery deepened with each step taken through the silent corridors of the vessel, a ghost ship in every sense of the word. The interior bore an almost surreal stillness. The cabins were immaculate, the beds undisturbed and the personal belongings of the crew arranged as if in quiet farewell. Yet there was no sign of struggle, no indication of a violent departure. It was as if the souls of the crew had evaporated into the thin ocean mist, leaving behind only their earthly vestiges. As the crew of the Dei Grazia began to investigate, a mounting dread set in. Every meticulously stored object, every neatly stacked barrel and crate, suggested that the Mary Celeste had been abandoned in haste, but not through the force of an enemy's attack. Theories whispered among the men ranged from the plausible to the absurd. Had the ship been overpowered by pirates who preferred to leave no trace, only to later scuttle their plunder? Or was there something far more sinister at play, a supernatural force that had rendered the entire crew invisible, as if they had been spirited away by the ocean itself? One theory proposed that a ghostly curse had befallen the Mary Celeste. Some of the Dei Grazia's crew recalled ancient legends of cursed vessels, doomed to sail the seas forever as silent monuments to tragedy. Others suggested that a malignant presence lurked below deck, a spectral force that might have driven the crew into madness, leading them to abandon the ship in a collective, inexplicable panic. Curiosity mingled with dread as a small party of investigators boarded the Mary Celeste. Every step they took seemed to echo with a quiet warning. In the galley, utensils lay scattered as though the crew had risen in haste, abandoning their meal mid-preparation. In the captain's quarters, the log's final entry ended with a hastily scrawled line, "The sea calls." A chill crept over the investigators as if the ship itself were whispering secrets of doom. A sense of being watched grew in the narrow corridors and empty cabins. Shadows seemed to shift just beyond the corners of vision, and a low, unplaceable hum, reminiscent of voices carried on the wind, filled the silence. Some claimed that they heard the soft padding of footsteps echoing on the decks, as if the crew were still roaming the halls, trapped in a limbo between life and death. Speculation abounded. One theory held that the crew had been victims of an unexpected natural disaster, a rogue wave or a sudden, catastrophic storm that had forced them to abandon ship in terror. But the weather records and the calm seas on the night of discovery denied such a violent ending. Another theory suggested that a chemical anomaly had rendered the crew unconscious, leaving them to drift away as if carried off by unseen currents. Yet no trace of toxic substances was found aboard, and every container was sealed and intact. Superstitious whispers spoke of a cursed relic hidden within the ship, a talisman of malevolent power that, once disturbed, had unleashed a curse upon the crew. Some believed that the ship had sailed through a rift between worlds, slipping from the realm of the living into an ethereal plane where human presence was an aberration. Each theory only deepened the enigma, the truth remaining locked within the silent timbers and cold, unyielding decks of the Mary Celeste. As the Dei Grazia slowly drifted away from the Mary Celeste, a palpable sense of foreboding lingered among its crew. The abandoned ship, bathed in the ghostly light of the moon, continued its silent voyage on the open sea, a vessel of mystery and despair. The final image burned into the minds of those who had witnessed it. The Mary Celeste, adrift and desolate as if suspended between time and space, a relic of a past that refused to be reclaimed. In the weeks that followed, the case of the Mary Celeste became a chilling legend among sailors, a story of a ship haunted by its own inexplicable past, of a crew lost to forces beyond human understanding. The unanswered questions echoed like a dirge in the hearts of those who remembered. Was it a curse, a supernatural force, or something even more incomprehensible that had taken the crew? The silence of the ship, its orderly chaos, and the ghostly presence that seemed to linger in every shadow left an enduring mystery, a haunting reminder that some secrets of the deep are destined to remain forever lost in the eternal embrace of the sea. And so, the Mary Celeste sailed on, a ghostly specter on the horizon, its fate entwined with the unknown, its mystery an open wound in the fabric of maritime lore. The ship's silent testimony continues to haunt the minds of all who dare to ponder its dark, inexplicable story. Now for another dark and haunting tale that will send shivers down your spine. Evelyn had always found solace in the quiet isolation of the countryside, far from the incessant hum of city life. Her old farmhouse, tucked away on a remote stretch of winding country road, had long been her sanctuary. But one stormy autumn evening, that sanctuary became the stage for an encounter she would never forget. It began with an almost imperceptible tapping at the window, a soft, deliberate sound that seemed to echo through the silence of the empty room. Evelyn, nursing a cup of tea by the flickering light of a single candle, peered through the rain-spattered glass. What she saw made her blood run cold. Outside, standing on the overgrown porch, were two children. Their skin was pallid in the dim light, and as the storm obscured their features, one thing was unmistakable. Their eyes were voids of utter blackness, lacking pupils, lacking whites, just two deep, unyielding shadows. They moved with an unnerving calm, their small figures illuminated only by the intermittent flicker of the failing porch light. For a long, harrowing moment, Evelyn stared at them, her heart pounding in her chest. The children did not smile or cry out. They simply stood there, swaying slightly as if in time with some silent, malevolent rhythm. Then, in voices that were too soft to be natural, they spoke in unison. "May we come in?" the voices asked, their tone innocent yet disconcertingly detached. Evelyn's first instinct was to slam the window shut, to hide from the intrusion of these impossible visitors. But the steady, almost pleading calm in their request clawed at a part of her that felt inexplicably drawn to their sorrowful, haunted eyes. Each syllable they uttered was laced with an eerie familiarity, as if they had known her for a lifetime, though she had never seen them before. The wind picked up, carrying with it strange whispers that rustled through the old oak trees surrounding the farmhouse. The lights inside began to flicker as if the very air was charged with static dread. A chill that was not entirely due to the autumn rain crept along her spine. Evelyn's rational mind screamed that something was terribly wrong, yet an inexplicable compulsion urged her to approach the door. Her hand hovered over the knob, trembling. Outside, the children shifted. One stepped forward, its black eyes now fixated on her with an intensity that defied the natural order. The child's lips parted in a slight, wordless plea. Then, almost as if a decision had been made in a far-off, unseen corner of the universe, the children turned away slowly as though waiting for her to open the door. Inside, the house seemed to tighten around her. Every shadow seemed to flicker and stretch unnaturally. The old floorboards creaked underfoot with a cadence that mimicked distant, deliberate footsteps. The whispers grew into a faint chorus that resonated through the walls, each word lost in the static of a storm no one could quite explain. Evelyn retreated to the safety of the dim hallway, her mind a tangled mess of fear and curiosity. She listened as the storm outside intensified, the sound of rain drumming against the roof intermingling with the unearthly voices that seemed to seep through the very foundation of the farmhouse. The unnatural cold in the room deepened, as if the night itself were exhaling a frigid warning. She finally gathered the courage to approach the front door, peering through the peephole. The corridor beyond was empty, but the damp, earth-scented air that slipped inside carried a hint of something unidentifiable, a mixture of decay and something metallic, like old blood. In the flickering light, she saw small, dark footprints leading away from the door, vanishing into the night. Evelyn stood frozen, torn between the terror of what she had encountered and the compulsion to follow. Her heart hammered in her ears as she realized that her encounter with the black-eyed children was more than a mere hallucination conjured by isolation. It was a presence, something ancient and inexplicably tied to the darkness that lurked at the edges of reality. With trembling hands, she closed the door, the echoes of those whispered voices lingering in the silence that followed. The room, once a haven of solitude, now felt like a trap from which she might never escape. And as the storm raged on outside, Evelyn couldn't help but wonder, were those children ever truly human, or were they harbingers of something far more sinister? Long after the storm subsided and the night surrendered to a cold, indifferent dawn, Evelyn lay awake in bed, haunted by the memory of those unblinking void-like eyes. The encounter had left an indelible mark on her soul, a persistent dread that maybe, just maybe, the dark entities that had come knocking that stormy night were still out there, watching from the periphery of the world, waiting for their chance to step through the door. And so, in the oppressive quiet of the farmhouse, Evelyn was left with an unsettling, lingering question. If something so inexplicably terrifying could visit her on one isolated night, what else might be hiding in plain sight, shrouded in darkness, waiting for its moment to reach out and claim its next unwitting guest? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you more thrilling stories. And hit the bell icon to never miss an update.